Thank you so much for clicking on the video and welcome back to my channel. You can call me Twinkle, call me SheIsTwinkle, or call me Antoinette. Either way, I'm here to give y'all my take and my final video on Love is Blind. This is season 5. We talking about the reunion and all the behind the scenes tea that happened after the reunion. Because as you know, the reunion is supposed to give us the behind the scenes tea, right? It's supposed to give us their real thoughts and opinions. People are supposed to be accountable for their actions. That really didn't happen in this reunion. Thank goodness for all of the extra castmates that was willing to come out and tell their story. And today I'm here to share it all with y'all. Let's just jump into the reunion though. The reunion starts off with Nick and Vanessa Lachey. They clean up very nicely. They asked some questions that we wanted them to ask. I don't think that they allowed conversations to go on as long as we wanted them to. However, I do understand that editing and the production team plays a major role in that. So I can't fault them for that. They listened to our feedback and our complaints and they tried to do better. So snap it up for them. Kudos to them. They start up the reunion, turning their attention to the one and only married couple of the season, Milton and Lydia. They hugged up all close, and he got his arm around her like, I got you. You already know the heat is coming your way for the way that you was acting towards Aaliyah this season, but don't worry, I got you. We see a look back at their journey and then their life since then. In the video, we see that they did end up having a second wedding ceremony. This was less than 6 months after their first one, but it was done in Puerto Rico. Now, they didn't say this on Netflix, but I have watched an interview of Lydia and Milton since then, and Lydia wanted her grandparents to be able to be present at her wedding. Milton agreed, and he got his groomsmen to agree, and his parents helped financially as well. Milton was more than proud to announce that his family is now Team Lydia, more so than they are Team Milton. Milton says that the good thing about this is that Lydia has made his family kind of mushy. They are way more in tune with their emotions now. It's actually bettered his relationship with his parents as well. And they will call him and just say they love him and all these different things. So I do think that's awesome. If you're married to somebody, they should bring the best out of you and you should appreciate those things about them that are different. In some instances, it would be good for some of your traits to wear off on your partner. So that emotional part has been beneficial for Milton's entire family. The host did ask the both of them, what is the best thing about being married? And they both agreed that the best thing about their union is the fact that they have someone who loves them and has their back unconditionally. You notice that this is true because Milton kept referring to Lydia as my wife, my wife, my wife. I look forward to coming home to my wife. Now, is it me? But I get very irritated and annoyed when people say, my wife, my wife, my wife, or my husband, my husband, my husband. Have y'all ever been around a friend, family member, or coworker that constantly says, my wife, my husband, my spouse? Dude, if we have developed some type of connection or relationship, we are familiar with one another, then I know your spouse's name. Just say Lydia. Okay, Milton, but I think that he probably enjoys saying my wife. Now, a year and a half later, he should be used to it. I understand the first few months, but dude, her name is Lydia. Just call her Lydia. That's a small little pet peeve of mine, but I had to get it out. Milton mentioned that his focus right now with Lydia is making sure that they're good. They've established a 401k for their household, and they're just making sure they get things in order financially. And so then Nick Lachey uses that bit of information to segue over to Izzy and Stacy, saying, well, speaking of 401k and finances, Izzy and Stacy, how are you guys doing? The shade was real. Anywho, so they are like very confusing when you look at them on the couch because you can't tell, are they together? Are they not together? He is all smiles. She looks very comfortable. She doesn't look upset. Obviously, they're on good terms, but I couldn't figure out whether they were together or not until they finally asked them down the line. But their segment starts off by them asking Izzy about why he didn't share his credit history with her. And Izzy says that he couldn't find the right time. He still BS's all of his responses, and he just skates around what the real answer is. Eventually, Vanessa said, "Are you embarrassed? Were you a little bit embarrassed by it? That's why you didn't want to say it." And he said, yes, like I could tell that she was used to a certain standard of life just through our conversation. So I was embarrassed to say anything to her because that's not how I came up and that's not my current life. So that's the truth. The truth will set you free. Just say the truth. Behind the scenes tea, I heard low key, Izzy, either he didn't have a job or he was in between jobs, or it was one of them skeptical sales jobs. Y'all let me know what y'all heard down below. But I think that there had to be more to that. That job situation was probably a factor as well. And he certainly didn't want to tell Stacy that. And if he did tell her that and they just didn't show it on camera, then I even more so understand why she didn't marry him. But whatever, they let us know that they met up a week after the weddings because he needed a week to breathe. She told him that she wanted to just completely start over, have a clean slate as if they hadn't gone through all this, and let's see if we work that way. He was baffled. He said, wait, so we're not going to still be engaged? You want us to start over from scratch? And I'm thinking, dude, you was only dating her for 4 weeks at that point. Yes, the experiment didn't work out for you guys, but if you want a real chance with her, what is the problem with starting over? He was not having it. He said that he was butthurt. So he walked out her door and walked out of her life for the next year. But since then, like a domino effect, they've ran into each other several times. They ran into each other a week later with the rest of the cast at a bar, and I'll get to that shortly. They also ran into each other after that year had passed, and Izzy was at a cooking class with his date, and Stacy was at a cooking class with her date, and they had to go through the cooking class together. They were asked if they've hooked up or kissed or anything since then, and they both said yes, they shared a kiss when they saw each other at the cooking class. So I was very confused. Did y'all go outside? Did y'all go to the restroom? How do you share a kiss with each other when you both are on dates? That's very confusing. But they did say that he is still with the person that he was at the cooking class with. They're not official, but they're getting there. And then they asked Stacy who she's currently dating, and she said, no comment. I'm dating, no comment. So she must not be dating, because most of the time when they've moved on to somebody else, they're happy to say that they've moved on. Obviously, she has not. But to wrap up their little portion, they said that they're good friends. They realize that they're much better as friends than they are as anything else. Now, I'm a communications major, which means that I took verbal communication, nonverbal communication, cultural communication. I'm looking at their body language and what they're not saying. And they were very hesitant to answer the questions about whether they have hooked up since then or if they've kissed since then. I think they've been friends with benefits several times throughout this year and a half that's passed. I don't know. That's the vibe I got. Y'all tell me what vibe y'all got. Moving right along, the next couple that they bring out is Johnie and Chris. And when I tell you, Johnie, this year and a half done did her good. She looks amazing. Looked like she got a little thinner. Her dress was very cute. It was kind of like mermaid-like. The color was beautiful on her. Y'all already know that I've been a fan of Chris, so I was happy to see them come out. Now, their segment shocked me the most out of anybody. So let me just get into it. They asked Johnie and Chris the question that, of course, we all want to know. Are you guys still together? They had smiles on their faces, but they both said, no, we're not together. So the hosts were confused. They're saying, what in the world went down for you guys to not be together? Johnie said the same week of the barbecue was her birthday weekend. So he wasn't able to be in town for her birthday weekend, and he had to do a wedding out of town. So that week passed, she didn't talk to him. Another week passed, and she still hadn't heard from him. And then she hears from her friends, because remember, they live in the same city, that he was dating somebody else, another girl. And then Chris admits to it, like, yeah, that was my bad. I did go out of town and then I didn't talk to her. And then a week passed and I didn't talk to her, but I met a beautiful, amazing girl. And yes, I probably should have communicated and said something to Johnie and probably broke it off with her. But I do apologize for that, because I would never intend to hurt her feelings, but I don't feel sorry for anything that I did, because now me and this girl have been together for the last year and a half, and we live together, and I love her so much and I respect her. What? Everybody was lost for a second. Wait, what? Chris, this is abnormal behavior for you. I have been saying all season 5, Chris is a good guy. Chris is a good guy. I really like him. Chris is the good guy. And then you proceed to calmly say, yeah, I decided to be with somebody else. And I'm sorry that I didn't communicate it with you, but I don't feel any type of way because we're still together and we live together. A lot of people were saying, well, that's what Johnie gets. She did him wrong. She did him wrong. Let me stop that right there, because I don't think that Johnie is a villain in this season. Johnie didn't actually do anything wrong. Johnie simply revealed all her cards too soon. She even says it on this reunion. She says what she regrets is that she should have just continued along with the experiment and continued dating Chris and Izzy. But instead, she made a decision, and she was so dead set on Izzy that she let Chris go prematurely. And I totally agree with that. I really do. She should have kept going. At that point, Izzy probably would have let her go, and then she still would have had Chris as a connection. He would have never felt like she chose him second. But even in saying that, she didn't do anything wrong. She didn't hurt anybody. So people like to paint her as a bad guy, but she's really not a bad guy to me. What was bad is the fact that Chris and Johnie at the barbecue were saying they were boyfriend and girlfriend. They weren't just casually dating. They were committed to each other. And then you leave and go out of town and say, I found somebody else. I should have communicated. No, you cheated on her. So if you cared anything about her, you should have had a conversation and been like, look, I really don't think this is working. And I don't want to be that guy. I want to be honest with you, like you've been honest with me when you weren't feeling me. And I'm just not feeling it. So I'm going to move on. That's all he had to do. But let me get off of that rant, because I could go on and on forever. Johnie says, oh, it's fine. It's okay. He's moved on in life. I've moved on. I've been with my guy that I'm with now for about a year. So I'm good. So then there's these awkward moments of giggling and looks being exchanged back and forth between all 3 of the couples up there. Make a long story short, they were all at the bar a week after the weddings. Johnie and Chris were no longer together. Chris actually showed up to the bar with his girlfriend. Then we have Izzy and Johnny. They have a conversation at the bar because now Izzy is no longer in his relationship with Stacy. He is trying to mend things with Johnny. He even apologized again on the reunion. Then the host asked them, did you guys try to see where your relationship could have went, because you guys connected in the pods as well, as in Johnny and Izzy. Did you guys hook up? And they said, I mean, we didn't hook up. We kissed. They said, are you sure that's all? Yes, we just kissed. Okay, just like Izzy just kissed Stacy after they met on that cooking date. But Izzy says, no, we really did just kiss out in the parking lot in my car. That's all. We realized we weren't for each other and we would never work. You're telling me from one night at a bar, y'all had a conversation, you apologized, obviously y'all were drinking, y'all go to your car, you kiss one time, and then you realize, oh, we're not for each other, but we're greatest friends. Why would y'all go out to the car to... I think more went down in that car, and more may have even went down after that. But because that has to be the reason as to why y'all determined this isn't going to work out. I think there's a lot that's not being said, but they both want to keep a more polished image on TV. And it's like, come on, this is the reunion. We've been waiting for this all season. Whatever. Then they asked Stacy why she blew up on Johnie like that at that barbecue. Stacy starts explaining, I was hearing that she was saying all types of stuff to me, to the other castmates. Obviously, they're more my friends than they are her friends. She thinks they're loyal to them, but they were coming back and they were telling me everything. Johnie and Chris started having their own conversation while Stacy was talking as if she wasn't speaking at all. And they weren't talking quietly because production was able to pick up on what they were saying and the subtitles were on the screen. Chris is literally apologizing to Johnie about their breakup and him not communicating with her about the other girl. And she's saying, oh, it's fine. I totally understand. It's the past. Not a big deal. I'm not upset. They're having a full-fledged conversation. At one point, Chris says, I didn't hear what she just said, referring to Stacy. Johnie says, I didn't either, but it doesn't matter anyway. And they keep talking. I thought that was hilarious. Girl, we've tuned you out in real time. You're talking, but all I hear is womp, 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 womp. Stacy was looking at them while they're talking, but she never stopped talking. Vanessa then puts on her mom hat and says, like, oh, I see you guys over there talking. Is there anything you want to share? And they said, no, there's nothing to share. She said, okay, well, do you have a response to Stacy? And Johnie was basically like, no, I don't have an issue with her. And I guess she didn't owe me anything in the pods to tell me she was dating Izzy and whatever. I'm past it. I'm happy in my new relationship. You can tell that her and Stacy still don't have it for each other, but it's just really not worth the argument. Moving right along, what we've all been waiting for. Y'all know the drama that broke out in season 5. Uche, ooh, child. He's been saying a lot on social media, and now this is the reunion. This is where everybody gets dressed up in their best as if they're going to prom, an adult prom, and they come to settle the score, address everybody face to face, whether they had a problem, whether they need to apologize. They come and they let it all out, and this is their last attempt. Uche, ooh, child, was not in attendance. What? Aaliyah showed up looking like a freaking goddess. She came in and showed out. Like, I already know y'all got something to say, and I'm about to show up and look my best and be on my best behavior. So she showed up, but Uche, ooh, child, did not. I have no respect for this man. At this point, don't post anything on Instagram. Don't go on interviews when you could have shown up for the reunion. The host said that he was invited, the invitation was extended, but he did not show up. So Aaliyah comes out, and then Taylor comes out with her. Taylor also looks beautiful. She has really worked on herself even more so this past year and a half. And they had the two best dressed and most beautiful girls on the couch, hands down. JP also came out. He was on the couch with Johnie and Chris, and JP had on red, white, and blue stars on his socks. Anyways, JP still didn't say much, but I'm gonna get to what he said. So then, of course, the cameras being messy, they give us a look back at Lydia and Aaliyah's friendship. Then once the video goes off, Lydia starts talking, and she says that she always wanted the best for Aaliyah throughout this entire process. She had good intentions, and she just wanted to be honest with her. Now, at this point in the reunion, the cat is let out of the bag, I believe, by Nick and Vanessa, that production was the reason as to why Lydia and Uche were not allowed to tell anybody else that they were dating in the pods that they knew each other previously and that they previously dated. Production made that decision. They asked Aaliyah how she felt about it because it affected her the most. And Aaliyah goes on to say she didn't have an issue with the fact that they dated in the past. She had an issue with the fact that they weren't allowed to give her that information from the beginning, because if she had that information, she would have moved differently, i.e., she wouldn't have been Lydia's friend. Because Aaliyah was saying, I asked Lydia on several occasions, do not talk and tell me anything else about Uche. Please, I do not want to know any more information. But she kept not respecting her boundaries, and she kept talking about it and kept talking about it. They only showed it once on camera, but it happened 2 to 3 times. And that's where the frustration came from. She believes that if she was given all of the information up front, then she would have moved differently. And her and Uche probably could have had more of a chance. Her and Uche did try to date outside of the pods, but it only lasted a month because Uche was the same person that he presented himself as on TV. He's very condescending, it's draining, and she just couldn't take that anymore. Plus, she felt like she had been lied to and it wasn't fair. I can't fully blame Uche and Lydia because production told them not to say anything, or else production was going to send them home. At one point, when production saw that they were connecting genuinely with other people, then production decided, okay, now you can tell people that you guys dated in the past if you want. Production was being very messy. That leads me to the next part of the reunion, where Nick and Vanessa then go on to ask the rest of the cast if they feel like production made the right decision by not allowing Lydia and Uche to reveal their past dating history with the rest of the cast. Aaliyah looked very confused, and she's done an interview with Jessie Woo. Y'all check it out on YouTube since the reunion has aired, and she said on there that she was highly upset by that and she was offended because she felt as though it didn't affect any of those other people. It only affected her. So why are they asking what the rest of the cast's opinion of it was when it had no direct effect on them? Lydia also never answered for her behavior. I think that Lydia should have taken more accountability, and that's the part that Aaliyah was waiting for from her. Milton then steps in and says, my wife is a great person. She's a much better person than I am, and she handled things way better than I would have. In so many words, nobody is going to paint her to be this type of person because she's not. I was also in a similar position because Uche was trying to tell me things about her behind the scenes every day. But I also chose not to fraternize with him. I was not cool with him. These people were not my actual friends. I don't care because I'm here for a mission, and that's to find the love of my life. And thank God that's what I did with Lydia. I could have let it ruin my experience, but I handled it differently. They didn't actually show Aaliyah's true response. On the reunion, they showed Aaliyah saying, I commend you for the way that you handled Uche, Milton. You did an amazing job with that. I was very proud of you for that. But according to Aaliyah on her Jessie Woo interview, she said that they didn't air her response to him because she responded to Milton and said, yes, that was your experience, but you can't take away from my experience because it was not the same. I was actually friends with Lydia. She befriended me. She kept coming to me and telling me more and more and more and more. And I was telling her to stop. So just because this was your experience, it's apples to oranges. It wasn't the same as my experience. Obviously, we see, as all production teams do, if they want the narrative to be a certain thing, or they want somebody to look like the victor in the situation and the other person to look like the victim, then that's what they're going to do. That's exactly what they did. I do commend Aaliyah because she held herself together very well, and she never received an apology. Her feelings weren't actually even acknowledged, and Uche wasn't there for her to even confront and address him on this public platform, although he put her down on the same public platform all the time. So dude, show up. Don't be a punk. Now, some behind the scenes tea with that is that Aaliyah actually admitted that She doesn't think that it was entirely Lydia's fault. She thinks that Lydia was given a beat. Now, in the reality TV world, a beat means that you're kind of coerced or cued to have a certain type of conversation with a castmate. The production team will tell you, okay, Lydia, we want you to go and have a conversation with Aaliyah and talk to her about X, Y, and Z, or let her know the type of person that Uche is. She thinks that Lydia was coerced into it. Now, Lydia did not have to reveal all of that information, but if she's being cued to do it by production, I mean, you're still guilty because you're doing it. You don't have to do it. They can only use what you give them. And you gave them all of that information on camera at the expense of Aaliyah's feelings and her experience, even when she told you not to. So although you were being coerced by production and, oh, this is going to make great TV, these were real relationships you were developing. Their friendship is no longer, it will never be. Lydia claims that she still loves and respects Aaliyah, and Aaliyah said, I'm good, we're no longer friends. But update on Aaliyah's love life. She does have a significant other. She said she's in a healthy relationship. She met her significant other on an R&B cruise. So kudos to you, Aaliyah. Oh man, here's an exclusive I have to share with y'all. She said this on the reunion, but she also went into more detail on Jessie Woo's channel. She said that Uche was communicating with a lot of different people in the cast, a lot of the men, and he was in the group chat. And this was during the time that him and Aaliyah were trying to date outside of the pods. And people kept coming to her with information, especially some of the guys. And they were telling her, like, don't give Uche a chance. Why are you dating this guy? He is a horrible person. He talks about you all the time. He says he's not attracted to you, all of these things. Aaliyah did say that Uche told her when he met her, you're not usually the type that I date. But, you know, I guess they decided to still give it a try. Now, if you tell me I'm not what you usually date, you're telling me I'm not your preference. Okay, we don't have to date. You ain't got to do me no favors. Move along. But she decided to give him a chance anyway. Aaliyah keeps hearing all this information from people on the cast about Uche talking about her. So she decided to call it quits with him because he's basically wasting her time. It's not even worth it. So they didn't work out. But wrapping it up with the last couple that was on there would be Taylor and JP. Now, remember, we had not seen them since Mexico, since she decided to part ways with him. Since then, she said that she still didn't understand why everything happened. It's not even about the makeup. She doesn't believe that that's the reason why he wasn't talking to her. JP still is crickets. He was just like, that's one of my downfalls. I could do better at communicating. So the host then tried to get JP to open up even just a little bit more because all he's doing is awkwardly smiling. And they asked him, if you were out at a bar, would you typically approach somebody like Taylor? Have you dated somebody that looks like her before? So he says that he has dated somebody that looks like her before, but if he saw her out at a bar, he wouldn't approach her because he wouldn't approach anybody. That's not what he does. Okay. So then he goes a step further to say, I don't do that. That's uncomfortable. I would have one of my friends go and approach somebody I'm interested in, and then we'll go from there. So you mean to tell me you're a grown man. You are 30 years old. You are a firefighter. You go and put out full-fledged fires, and you cannot go and have a conversation with a woman. I'm not even saying Mac on her like, hey, Ma, how you doing? You don't have to have a pickup line. Just have a conversation. That is strange to me. And the fact that he felt okay with saying that on national television is nuts. Moving right along, let's get into the stuff that they didn't show. There is another cast member. She was a blonde by the name of Renee. Now, Renee did a tell-all interview on Deep T and Natalie's podcast that they have. It's on YouTube and all podcast platforms. And She told her entire story. According to Renee, she was not told until 2 months before season 5 aired. Production called her and said, hey, we will not be airing your story because we don't want you to have to relive some of the stuff that you had to go through with Carter. Now, y'all should go listen to the interview for yourself, but very quickly, Carter was a hotmess.com. Most of the girls in the pod did not like him. He was very aggressive. He did not have a job at all. He ended up going to Mexico. If they had people on the staff helping, he would get aggressive with them. He got aggressive with the hotel people to the point where it was getting uncomfortable to everybody that was around. When they went back to Houston and they moved into the apartments, Renee was uncomfortable being in the apartment with him by herself because this aggressive nature just got insane. Then she also told him, I understand that you're in between jobs, but you do need to work on getting a job once we get back to Houston because I'm not going to marry you if you're not employed. So he said, okay. But that was also not a priority of his once they got back. Texas is a conceal and carry state. Renee had her own firearm and was licensed to carry. They, as in production, advised her to not have that in the apartment with her because of his hot-tempered tendencies. That is insane. She went through this entire process. By the end of it, she knew she was not going to get married. They went up to the altar and everything. She said no, and none of this was aired. Now, I personally believe that it's not being aired because Netflix Love is Blind is currently in 2 lawsuits, and one of them is for people not feeling protected and safe on set. She said she did not feel safe several times, and she would be talking to production behind the scenes. I do believe that they should do a better job at vetting these people. They need to give them some type of psych test or mental health analysis, or get some type of clearance or doctor's notes from like a therapist and a medical doctor. Get some character references from their friends and family, because you're putting people in very uncomfortable situations when they go to Mexico and they're essentially rooming with a stranger. Yes, they've connected with them sight unseen in the pods, but now they're just now knowing this person. Imagine being in a room overnight when the cameras all shut down with a insane person. And then they load them all up with alcohol. And I understand that this is a show and you want to get great television, but not at the expense of somebody else's safety and their physical well-being. So I think that that is definitely where Netflix has dropped the ball. Also, through a lot of these interviews that I'm seeing by castmates, all of them have said that they were casted for the show in different ways. But the primary way they were casted is that they were all on dating apps within the Houston, Texas area. On those dating apps is where a Netflix producer would randomly reach out to them, or they would send them a direct message and say, hey, I viewed your profile. You look like a very interesting person. Are you still single? Would you be interested in being casted for the next season of Love is Blind for your city? Some of these people didn't even fill out an application. Other people like Aaliyah, she actually did fill out an application a year and a half before she even received a call. She forgot at that point that she filled out an application. So I think that they should probably reconsider some of their casting practices and really do their due diligence. I think they're trying to make good television, but for them to avoid some of these lawsuits and really have people's best interests at heart, they just need to revise some of their planning strategies. That's just my opinion. But all in all, the season had a lot of ups. It had a lot of downs. There was only one successful couple that we see out of it. There were apparently 6 engagements this season, but they don't show all of the engagements. I'm sure they have their reasons as to why, or they're trying to protect their brand. So I can't really speak to that. But I wish the reunion gave us more. I wish Uche showed up. At least we can get all the behind the scenes tea and we can get that for free on YouTube. So please, guys, go and check out those interviews that I mentioned, and I will let y'all know what I'm coming back with next. Comment down below what you would like for me to review, or I'm going to just pop out with something. Anywho, y'all, thank you so much for supporting me and watching my videos. And until next time, love you all. Bye-bye.